My name's Charlotte. I work for a company called Hugh Lowe Farms. We're based down in Kent in the southeast of England. So what we try and do as a business here, like I said, is we try and enhance these crops in the best way that we possibly can. And by situating our wildflowers in the areas that we do, we're trying to increase the number of natural pollinators into the area, so they can come in and do the best job they can do for our fruit here. So we have a number of different tunnel sites, just like this one. And around all of our tunnel sites we've got different areas of wildflower mixes, but also other, different areas that enhance the wildlife and the pollinators. They've got different habitats in order to feed and live within. So here we spent quite a lot of time doing the groundwork in order to create a nice, very fine seed bed. The problem I think that maybe a lot of farms have is that we're dealing with small areas. I mean, this one is large by comparison to some, but small areas but with very large bits of kit. So you're trying to create an exceptionally fine seed bed, and then you want to really try and drill the seeds just as shallow as you possibly can. It's often quite difficult with these mixes that you get such a range in seed sizes. Some prefer to be slightly deeper in the ground than others. So kind of managing that balance to try and get a really good establishment can often be quite hard. But here, like I say, we worked very hard on just getting a nice fine seed bed. We tried to time it well so we could see that there was some rain coming in the forecast, so it wasn't too dry, the conditions weren't too dry. And then after that we came in with our drill, planted the seed very, very, very shallow, and rolled it quite tightly to make sure there's good seed soil contact after that. Broadcasting, we find, both practices have pros and cons. When you're drilling, you do try and ensure that seed soil contact in a much better way because you can put it slightly under the surface of the soil. Broadcasting obviously has slightly negative effects on that. It's a bit more variable, so it's difficult to, you're not placing the seed quite in the right place. That being said, that seed lying on the surface is a much more natural way of that establishment. That's how they drop their seeds onto the ground, and they germinate every year and they grow again. So there are benefits, but there are also negative parts to each establishment method. We've just found that drilling has worked quite well in the past. I have also got some wildflower strips though that were broadcast, and they've established very well too, but I think it certainly benefits seed type more importantly. You can notice the difference between the two strips that I've got elsewhere on the farm. Different species have established in different areas, and I think that's probably down to the way in which the seeds were put into the ground. Before we did any ground prep, we came in with we sprayed on some glyphosate to kill everything. What we have found in the past is that if there are too many weeds, they very, very quickly outcompete these much smaller seeds. So you really want to start with as much bare earth as possible. Glyphosate really is the only way to ensure that you get the best possible part of that. We don't have many other options to ensure that we get the covering that we want. If and when glyphosate is no longer allowed to be used is a hard question to answer. There are not many alternatives, but that being said, I think you could often argue that we are trying to force situations here. We're trying to force these wildflowers maybe in areas that they're not best suited. So I think we need to become a bit more wise to our environment, and we need to really target where we are trying to encourage these species, and then we can involve other more natural processes like livestock, for example. You can graze areas very hard to get that bare earth. They can then take out the weeds that are competing with the wildflowers, and they will allow new species to come through. And I think maybe we need to look at a slightly more just natural approach to encouraging these different areas onto the farm. I've learned a lot so far, but I think that there's still a lot to learn. I've definitely got some areas across the farm that have not been quite so successful, areas where there was too much trash on the surface, so it's just not left enough open air or open ground for these seeds to germinate. You know, trying to get a very fine seed bed is key. Allowing that seed the space it can. You know, it can germinate well. It gets the light that it needs. It gets the warmth. It gets the rain. It gets everything it needs in order to grow. Is definitely very important. But I think we've also got to be quite specific with the seed type that we use, the species that we use. And if we're not using ones that are, you know, natural to this area in particular, or anywhere else that you're trying to grow them, I think you are starting to fight a bit of an uphill battle. So in terms of maintenance, what we'll first do is just take a cut 50% of this area. That will hopefully allow some of the smaller species that are lying a bit further down on the canopy to hopefully establish better, just give them a bit more room to breathe. Later on in the season then we will cut the rest of the area, and ideally we will remove those cuttings. It will very much depend on our capacity. We might have to get a contractor in to do that, just due to availability in our own kit. But in order, removing the cuttings will certainly be more beneficial to the area, because again that would allow more, you know, increased germination for the next season. So it does do the ground a lot better when you remove those cuttings. Otherwise you end up with this mixed thatch underneath, and that very quickly smothers out anything for the next year. So for us, with the loss of basic payments, we are looking to obviously find new ways in which to, you know, support our business here. We are part of a stewardship scheme that is at the moment just helping to supplement some of the work that we're doing in terms of our increasing our biodiversity and supporting our pollinators, supporting our wild birds. Going forward, it's a little bit up in the air as to exactly how that will transfer through into elms. But I think it's looking increasingly likely that as farmers we are going to have to work harder in supporting the environment that we live and work in, and areas like this have become more important with our daily farming practices, and hopefully we will see the benefits for that, because they will bring in more pollinators, they will bring in more biodiversity across the farm. So I think overall, all farmers, we're now having to look to increase biodiversity across our farms. We want that to hopefully help us grow the crops and then help us just enhance the quality of the food that's produced every day for people to eat. We don't go out and do specific counts ourselves for the pollinators on the farm, but we do work with a lot of external people and companies that might come in and do different projects or bits of work, and all of that data collection is available to us, and we can use it as a map over the years, just to see hopefully the changes with the things that we're doing across the farm. We also do things such as flower counts, and they help monitor our harvest estimates, and again it's all linked in to hopefully everything that we place into the ground to hopefully benefit all of those pollinators, then transfer into the fruit to again hopefully produce very high quality, high yielding crops. I think I would first ask them what their view is for their farm, for the foreseeable but then also for the long-term future. And depending on that answer, I think then you probably have to work quite closely with maybe giving them the knowledge and the guidance and a bit of education about how these can benefit those goals. It's a new science to us. It's something that we are learning as we go, and we have had things that have gone well and things that have not worked so well. And I think that's probably something quite daunting for people if they've never tried it before. So just starting a conversation and just slowly educating and talking about different ideas makes it a bit more accessible to people.